Welcome to my views and news viewers. Debre Elias city government Wareda communication office has issued a statement about what happened at Debre Elias Trinity Unity Monastery, where several were killed in Ethiopian army's operation against Fano fighters. What is Debre Elias city government's position about the incident which happened there? Because Amhara activists are claiming that Orthodox believers were killed at the monastery, but uh, the city government's details are different. City government has shared details of how weapons were being brought, how effort was being made to organize fighters at the monastery. Secondly, OLA Oromo Liberation Army and Ethiopian government have spoken in the last 24 hours or so about second round of talks. The two sides met for the first round of talks in Zanzibar, Tanzania, more than 2 weeks ago. So, any schedule for second round of talks? Has the peace process completely collapsed? Any signs of second round of talks? What are two parties saying? We have details for you. Firstly was Debre Elias, Wareda, it's in East Gojam zone. And yesterday, we confirmed, several other sources confirmed too, that several people have been killed in Ethiopian army's operation around a monastery in Debre Elias. For the last 4 to 5 days, I have been updating you regularly about the siege of Debre Elias Trinity Unity Monastery. Security forces had surrounded the Trinity Unity Monastery and they were making announcements telling armed fighters there to surrender. But exchange of gunfire started around 4 days ago. For around 4 days, the monastery remained under siege. And around 48 hours ago, security forces managed to take control of the monastery. But in this incident, several have been killed. And we are seeing a social media campaign by Amhara activists. They say that Ethiopian army has killed dozens of innocent Orthodox followers at the monastery. Ethiopian army is silent, but now we have first official statement, and that is from Debre Elias, Wareda government, local government, part of Amhara regional government. So, what is the government's position? What happened at the monastery? Debre Elias communication office of the Wareda says that the monastery, Trinity Unity Monastery, was being used as a hideout by criminal elements. The criminal elements were collecting weapons, they were bringing weapons at the monastery. They were recruiting displaced people to fight, maybe displaced from Valaga, from other parts of from other regions. They were being recruited and they were being trained as well at the monastery. Military training was being given at the monastery by criminal elements, armed elements. And the city government tried to resolve the issue through elders. The issue could not be resolved. Armed elements, criminal elements remained in control of the monastery. That is why city government sought the support of defense, Ethiopian National Defense Force. Ethiopian National Defense Force came at the request of city government and it is resolving the issue. Some news outlets are sharing false information, the city government says. there is no truth in some reports being shared by different news outlets. So, Debre Elias city government, without naming Fano, is clearly saying that those at the monastery were not just Orthodox followers, there were criminal elements. I reported, I think, 4 to 5 days ago when this issue started that Fano fighters were there. Yes, Orthodox followers were there too. And that is the main issue, that the Orthodox followers, they were caught in this confrontation between Fano fighters and Ethiopian army. All of them were not armed there. Fano fighters were there, they were in control of the monastery. Ethiopian security forces surrounded the monastery. They made announcements telling Fano fighters to lay down arms. Fano fighters fought back. There was exchange of gunfire, and then locals, the follower, Orthodox believer at the monastery, they were killed in this crossfire. Maybe some Fano fighters too. But Ethiopian army is back in control of Debre Elias monastery. What is needed is some investigation. I think Ethiopian Human Rights Commission should be allowed to visit this monastery, and church is silent. Church should send its own committee. It should form a committee to investigate the issue. Church can write a letter to Ethiopian Media Authority when Debre Elias TV license was suspended. Why can't it form a committee, an inquiry committee, to look into what happened in Debre Elias? It can send a committee there. And Debre Elias is in East Kajam. Abun Abraham, church general manager, is archbishop of this region, but he is silent. If Orthodox followers have been killed directly by security forces or indirectly, I think church should also play its part in finding out what happened at the church. At this monastery, I remember when in Addis Ababa, security forces tried to disperse some celebrations near a church a few weeks ago, and security forces used tear gas. One Orthodox believer was killed, several were injured. Back then, Addis Ababa diocese mayor ordered an inquiry. Why is that now church is silent? It means that there are some issues which church does not want to be involved in. Fano fighters were there at the monastery. Did they manage to escape? Have they been captured? No details shared by the government, by Ethiopian army. I think Ethiopian military, Ethiopian government should also share details. How many were there? Who was leading them? How many have been captured? How many have been killed? No details shared by the government too. Second words, OLA and Ethiopian government they have spoken separately about second round of talks. The two sides met for the first round of talks more than 2 weeks ago in Zanzibar, Tanzania. No agreement could be reached. But back then the two sides agreed to continue engagements. But after that we saw that fighting resumed in Oromia. Different parts of Oromia, in East Shava, West Shava, Wellega, Southern Oromia, we saw a resumption of heavy clashes between OLA and Ethiopian government forces. And now the two sides are speaking about the start or otherwise of the second round of talks. OLA says no second round of talks ongoing and no schedule agreed or planned so far. Ethiopian government also said the same. Malice, who is Ethiopian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, spoke a few hours ago, and he said that no second round of talks had been scheduled between the OLA and Ethiopian government. Yes, talks could be held in coming weeks, but so far the two parties have not agreed on any new date. Are they out of touch? Are they completely out of touch? We don't know. It seems that the resumption of clashes in Oromia indicates that the two sides are not seeing potential of agreement in dialogue. That is why perhaps they're delaying the second round of talks. And Jelmaro Kamsadere about 2 days ago when he spoke, he said if Ethiopian government has plan A and plan B, OLA has plans A, B, C and D. And if self-determination is not achieved through dialogue, other options are available to Finfane, the target of OLA. He announced to raise a big army for Oromos. So you see that Komsadeba sent a very strong message 2 days ago when he addressed new recruits somewhere in Western Oromia. Hundreds of new recruits were shown. OLA's recruitments, training, continuing. OLA is not showing any signs of flexibility or any signs of making concessions like TPLF made concessions in Pretoria. OLA is not ready to make any concession. It is raising big issues like transitional government in Oromia, issues like future status of Addis Ababa, issues like federal working languages, self-determination. These are the type of issues which cannot be agreed about which there cannot be agreement in just 1 or 2 sessions. And such dialogue on these issues would require participation of several stakeholders. So that is why even if second round of talks started, it won't lead to an immediate agreement. The two sides are poles apart, so far you can say. That is why I think the clashes, the fighting is expected to continue in the Oromia region of Ethiopia. Thank you.